I recently spoke with someone at an organization where things were, well, chaos. They were in the middle of a project, but nobody knew who was in charge. And different teams weren't communicating with each other, the finger pointing began, and then the inevitable happened. The client got frustrated and fired them. This was a major blow to the company. You'd think the next step would be to figure out what went wrong. Maybe assess the situation, pinpoint why the client was upset, and fix the problems to avoid repeating the same mistakes. But is that what they did? Nope. Their response was, oh well, let's just go find new clients. Well, that is one way to run a business, but I wouldn't call it an effective one. There's a lot to unpack in this story, but there's one key issue that this situation highlights: responsibility. Who is the one person responsible for making sure that things go smoothly, and who's held accountable when they don't? This question can be tricky because organizations are complex and many teams work on the same project. But to avoid chaos, there needs to be one person clearly identified as the accountable party. Or, as a friend of mine says, who's the neck to wring when things go wrong? That might sound severe, but there is some wisdom behind it. Because this person is the person who is accountable for the success or failure of the initiative. Think of it as placing a metaphorical ring around their neck, the ring of accountability. This person is responsible and accountable for making sure that the desired outcome is achieved. But having a ring around your neck doesn't have to be negative. Sure, you carry the weight of making sure things get done, but if you're the one responsible and the project is successful, you should also get the credit and appreciation. It's important that everyone knows who's in charge, and it's equally important that the person in charge knows that they'll be held accountable for both good and bad outcomes. But it does no one any favors when nobody can define who's in charge, because that's just a recipe for chaos. Now, there's another issue that's just as common, maybe even more frustrating. Somebody might be responsible and be held accountable for a project, but they don't have the authority to make decisions or to take action. And this brings us to the second ring, the one that I like to call the ring of power. For those familiar with the Lord of the Rings, you'll remember that it's all about the rings that give the bearers power. And we're going to use it as a metaphor for the opposite side of accountability, which is authority. Accountability without authority is a recipe for frustration and failure. If someone is held accountable for delivering results, they also need to have the authority to get things done. Otherwise, you're setting them up for frustration. Imagine being held accountable for something that you have no control over. It's not only disempowering, but it really is a sure way to drive talented people away. When you give someone the ring of power, it doesn't mean they do things like become a dictator or make all the decisions on their own. Instead, it means that they have the right resources and the authority to make decisions that align with their role and the project's goals. Give this person clear boundaries, provide guidance, and let them operate within those boundaries. And this approach helps them succeed in their current role and to grow as a leader. The next time you kick off a new initiative, remember these two rings: accountability and authority. Ask who has a ring of accountability around their neck. That is, who's accountable for making sure things are done right. Then make sure that that person also has the ring of power, meaning that they have the authority to make things happen. Leaders must balance two rings, the ring of accountability and the ring of authority. Without both rings, you risk chaos, confusion, and frustration. But with them, you give your team the structure and the support that they need to succeed.